And welcome everybody to our 30 minutes in this webinar. This time is going to fly for us. And before we get started, I want to give you a huge thank you for spending a few minutes with us today and be able to talk with me about training habits. And these apply not just to IT, information technology, but to anything that we want to really get done. Sometimes I wish that I could just hand my body and my mind over and have some kind of a robot automatically do those things which would lead me to success. And I've discovered there is nobody we can really hand our thoughts or mind or body over to that'll do that. It's really up to us. And we all know that training is a good thing. I mean, training is the catalyst that takes a person from point A and can move them to point B, and then from point B to point C, and so forth. So it's very possible to learn and to grow just by doing training. Now, babies, when they're born, our young children are usually afraid of just two basic things by default. They're afraid of loud noises and falling. And almost everything else, including their language skills and anything they learn in life, is all due to learning or association and that they're processing with their brains. So anything can be learned. If it's learnable by somebody else, it's very likely learnable by you. So whether you want to be an expert in Cisco or an expert in Microsoft or an expert in management or an expert in some other field or sport, it's really training is a huge part of taking you from where you are now and moving you to the place that you want to be. So I'd like to ask you to take a moment and just picture or imagine or visualize some skill or some way you'd like to be in the future. Maybe it is in IT. Maybe it's about your physical health. Perhaps it's in your relationships. Identify something that you'd like to have in the future. For some people, it might just be, I want to be the go-to guy. I want to be the guy on the network that's like knows everything, be able to fix problems and be the go-to guy. Or I really want to be the guy in charge of, or the girl or whoever it is, in charge of virtualization or load balancing or whatever it might be. And I'd like you to dream a little bit big. Now, I say dream and I put in parentheses or in parentheses a little. It does serve you and I well to go ahead and dream within reason. For example, I'm 52 years old. I'm not going to be an astronaut. I mean, not for NASA anyway. Maybe the Virgin will get their space travel. Maybe I'll go up as a passenger, but I won't be an astronaut for NASA. I know that. I also will not be a president of the United States. That's not going to happen. Now, I guess, is it possible? Maybe, if somebody just dedicated every ounce of every day, but in a dream reasonably is what I'm saying. I want to be, for example, I want to be weightless. I want to be able to fly without anything. Dream respectably, but dream pretty big. And then as you dream, take a look at where you want to go. And then start with where you are now and be realistic. Say, okay, here I am currently with the skills I have, with the training I have, with the situation I have. And the big part of really setting goals and getting habits in your subconscious that will drive you to success is to setting goals. That's a big aspect. I'm going to share something very personal with you coming up here in just a few moments about what I did back in 1986 and 1985. Yes, that was 3 decades ago. That helped me to get to where I am now and to enjoy the process as I went along. So identifying a huge goal is a really important aspect for your subconscious, because I've got a secret for you. Our subconscious minds are in charge of about 88% of us. Meaning, let's say, for example, we have a conscious mind and the subconscious mind. Imagine back to when you first learned to drive a car. Now, for me, dating myself here, this was the vehicle right there, the VW van that I learned to drive back in, when was it? In the late 70s, I guess it was. Anyway, in the 70s, it was my parents' vehicle. I learned to drive. It was a stick shift. And because it was new, I had to do all that consciously. And the conscious mind can only process about 7 chunks, plus or minus 2, at any given time. So imagine yourself when you were first learning to drive. Think back. You're sitting in the driver's seat. Maybe you had an automatic or a stick. Hopefully it was automatic for you. There's a person in the passenger seat who is helping you drive. There's a steering wheel. There's the mirrors. There's the gas, the brake. There's the turn signals. And you might find yourself turning the radio off or down initially just so you could focus on all those things going on. It takes a huge conscious effort. But if you've been driving for a few years, now imagine the last time you drove. How hard was it? For most of us, it's subconscious. We don't have to think about consciously actual driving. We're doing the driving, and it's still us, but it's all happening subconsciously. And between the conscious and the subconscious mind, there's this little thing called a critical factor. And anytime we have to learn new material, it's a little bit of an effort consciously, and that's where CBT Nuggets comes in. A lot of times, we help reduce that learning curve, make it easy to get into a technology, and then as you start learning it, and it becomes more of a habit, it can go ahead and be easier and easier to do, because the subconscious mind, it is a goal-oriented machine. It loves patterns, and it learns patterns, and then the subconscious mind says, hey, I got this. So the trick is, if we really want good IT habits, we need to do a little bit of work up front, just through repetition and building those habits, and then once we do, we can have our subconscious drive us to get us all the way there. And now one way of setting goals, and one way of dreaming or thinking about what you want is, and reinforcing it for your subconscious, is to say, why? Why do you want whatever it is? And here's the dealie. I said dealie. Here's the dealio. I didn't mean to shortcut you on that. Here's the dealio. If we have a big objective or a big goal, like a 10-year goal, and we don't really have enough reasons for it, we're not going to do it. Not on purpose anyway. So if you have a huge goal, I'd like you to think about why. For example, why do you want to live in that type of a home? Why do you want to be in that type of a job? Why do you want to have these types of relationships? Why do you want to be, proficient with F5 load balancers, with big IP? Why do you want to be a VMware expert? Why do you want to be a Cisco expert, et cetera, et cetera? And then if after you answer the first question of why, like, I'll have better skills. And then why do you want that? And then why do you want that? And go to the root of the issue. And that'll help you identify those motivators of why that goal is important to you. Again, if a goal is not important to you, it's not really ever going to make it into the subconscious as something that your subconscious can program on and say, I want this and I will continue to do it. So another technique that I would have you do to help you with great habits, to help you with the ability to consistently make progress in the direction of your goals, is to write out your mission statement. Write it out on paper. Most people, at least in America, most people spend more time planning a 2-week vacation or a week vacation, like the details, the itinerary, and so forth, than they do planning out what they want to have as goals for the future. That's sadly true. And that's why many people have challenges in succeeding, because they don't have concrete goals. So write out your goals, write out your mission statement. And I remember at Paramount Pictures, I worked there many years ago, and back in like 1993, 1994-ish. And when I was there, I went to conferences all the time, motivational speakers, et cetera, et cetera. And I was surprised by eavesdropping and listening to the people around me. Here I was, this fairly young person, and I had these older gentlemen around me saying, oh yeah, blah, 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 bad-mouthing what was being said. Now, I totally get it, that using reason and having reasonable goals and so forth is great. But if we're using bad-mouthing and negative language just to excuse ourselves from not taking a step in the right direction, karma's a son of a gun, and it comes around. So here's what I did. This morning in my home office, I dug through some boxes because I knew I was doing this presentation, and I found this document, and I'm going to read you part of it. This is from 1986 when I wrote this. It says, on April 26th, and I'm reading from the actual full paper, on April 26, 1987, I, Keith Barker, will be making $24,000 and will be worth that to my employer. I will accomplish this by doing more than what's required of me, something my father taught me a long time ago. I will take complete charge of the people I serve, the equipment I use to serve those people, and the accompanying paperwork. I am complete and accurate in all I do. I communicate well, and I make sure I understand what others are communicating to me. I look good and I feel good. I'm a big thinker. I think big about everything. I believe in happiness, prosperity, and success. I have a lot of faith, and I put that faith to work. And now, when I talk about faith, I have not faith like in Santa Claus or the Tooth Fairy, not that kind of faith. I have faith in the ability that if I take steps in the right direction, I will get closer and closer to my goal. And that is panned out. Anyway, it goes on and it says, I will read the statement every day and every night. By doing so and signing below, I believe that the above will continually become more accurate, and the $24,000 a year by April 26, 1987 will be a reality. And it was. My first job at EDS back in 1985-ish was $20,000. And so this was a step up, and then I had more for my other steps up, and then I had a goal for $70,000 and on and on and on. And you know what? My life did not turn out the way I thought it would. My life turns out better than I thought it would. Just because I have never let this go, the idea of consistently setting goals and then reading those and getting towards them. So here's what we can do with the 10-month goal, or 10-year goal rather. You want to break it down into years, and 1 year, 6 months, 1 month, 1 week. Now, if this sounds distasteful for you, for example, some of you, not all of you, but there may be a few people, not you, there may be some people who say, that's so much work. You know what, I don't have time. I hope that's not you, but if it is, I've got a technique I'm going to share with you in a moment that can help you with that. Now, regarding daily activities and weekly activities, I know we have a lot going. I do, you do, we're all very, very busy. And here's a secret on how to make sure you're doing the most important things in your life for yourself and your family and your loved ones that you possibly can. Here it is. I made this in, let me get my pen here. And let's use blue. There we go. So I have this document. I made it in a spreadsheet. You could do it in Word too. That works great. I'd put the date here, and then I'd put all the stuff I've got to do. Everything that's on my plate. You know, everything from registering the car to grooming the dog to studying to getting a report done to creating nuggets for CBT Nuggets, which I love doing. And then after I list all these things that I want to do based on my goals, I then rank them. Short-term urgency with a 3 being high, 1 being low. Now, short-term urgency, pretty straightforward, but as an example, let's say the rent is due today. How much of that's a huge short-term urgency, so that would get a 3. Now, if the rent's due, like if pay the rent is one of our items and it's not due for 3 weeks, that would be a low short-term urgency. And then we then also rank it long-term importance, 1 to 3, 3 being high. And then you total them. So you'd have some that are 6, you'd have some that are 4s, you'd have some that are 2s, etc. If you have any that are 1s, that's the problem. because 1 plus 1 from each of these columns is going to be at least 2. And then you rank them. So you take all your highest numbers. Let's say 6 is your highest number. You say, okay, that's A. And if I only had 3 things, then this is B, and this is C. And then and then also you'd write the next step. Because a lot of times, one of the barriers to getting something done is you don't know where to start or what the next thing to do. If you have it written down, what the very next step is, the very next thing you should do regarding this activity, if you write it right here, then when you go to your task list, say, okay, I'm going to start with my A's. And that's all you're going to work on. That's all you should be doing is your A list. That's it. And if you have more time, then you should go to your B's. And if you finish all your A's and B's, I'll tell you what, you're way better off than I am because I never get past A's and B's. And every couple of days, I'll print a new one of these and I'll relist my activities I still have on the table and I'll prioritize them again. And things shift as time shifts. And that's a great way of making sure that you get the stuff that you need to get done, that's important to you, that you get it done first. And Facebook is not, unless you're Zuckerberg, Facebook is probably not one of the high, or you work for Facebook. Facebook is probably not on the high priority list. Now, if you do a social media campaign, etc., maybe that could be up there. But just entertainment through Facebook, unfortunately, it's going to be a very low priority. And you might find that you're doing low priority tasks when you would be better served by doing something else. I love Facebook, by the way. Don't get me wrong. I'm just saying that things need to be done in their own priorities. You should do high priority things first that are important, and then lower priority things after that. So once you have your goals written out and you have your plans, the answer is just do it. Now, people may be saying, well, Keith, that doesn't always happen, the just do it part. There's things like procrastination. For example, if you look at this gentleman writing the top 10 reasons I procrastinate, no matter how long we stare at this graphic, he only has one item, the number 1 up there. He's procrastinating putting 2 through 10. So sometimes we procrastinate. I'd like you to also think about other reasons that we don't do what would be in our best interest. One of those things that come up for many people is fear. I mean, doing something different is change. In our brains, we have all these associations and things that we've learned, and we have positives and negatives as far as memories and associations and learned things. And anything that we don't know, subconsciously, the mind kind of treats that as a negative, like, oh, the unknown, scary, I don't know what to do. And that comes from years and years and thousands of years of the human development of the brain. So because change does happen, and it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when, sometimes people wait to go ahead and improve or act until the pain of not changing becomes so great that they overcome the fear of letting go and doing something different. The secret is don't wait until a person is in a very desperate state, like last-ditch effort, before they decide to make a change. Now, in situations like smoking and substance addiction and other things, I understand that people have to sometimes they hit a rock bottom before they'll correct. In our case, if we don't have a disease, a problem like that, it would be way better while we have jobs or while we're looking for work, whatever we're doing, is to start improving and going towards our goals while we have conscious choices and options about making those choices, as opposed to waiting. So it's the carrot and the stick. The carrot hanging in front of the donkey or mule or animal that's chasing the carrot, desire for something better. That's a better way to be, I think, or fear. And those are both, unfortunately, the two main motivators in our world today. It's fear and desire. So we have I'm going to share with you 3 basic options about how to deal with getting something done. You may want to mentally remember these. They will be helpful. You don't have to use all of them, but one of them may ring true, very true for you. The first option regarding getting something done that you should do is to go ahead and think about the pain if you don't do anything. This is really powerful for me. It can almost put me in tears. When I was younger, I heard some motivational speaker saying, Keith and group, I'd like you to imagine or visualize yourself at the end of your life. And I don't know how old you will be or what friends you'll have surrounding you or what you've accomplished in life, but at the end of your life, as you sit back and you look back on your life, it will be sad if you say to yourself at that last day that you're on the planet, if you say, why didn't I get to have this? Or why didn't I get to experience that? Or when was my time to shine? Or when was my time to actually have a little bit of glimmer of happiness and peace or prosperity or whatever it is that was important to you? And thinking about the pain, about if you do nothing, of how painful that could be an absolute serious motivator for you. Or if you want to get a better job, you could think, well, if I don't get a better job, I'm not going to make my payments that are due, et cetera, et cetera. So one option is to think about the pain. That's not my first choice, but it's a very powerful choice. Okay, option number 2 is a little bit better. Option 2 for you to get things done, to make that decision that you are going to act and move forward in the direction of your goals, is to think about how great it will be. For example, let's say that you want to become certified, or not certified, let's go for just the training, the knowledge. Let's say you want to become really good with IPv4 subnetting or IPv6, which eventually will come around. And you think to yourself, wow, if I knew IPv4 subnetting, or if I knew IPv6, or if I knew VMware, or Microsoft, or Cisco, or Juniper, or Big IP and F5, if I knew those technologies, it'd be great. I could walk into an interview with confidence and say, I can do this, I can do that, et cetera, et cetera. So that's option 2, is think about how great it will be when you accomplish that goal and visualize it. In fact, one technique is, if if you're driving or if you're at work and people are going to stare at you, you may not want to do this, but you can just close your eyes, relax, and visualize yourself 5 years in the future with those skills, having that confidence of having those skills, and just try it on, float into it, and just imagine how great it will feel to have those skills and have that goal that you have. And then as you come back out into your body and you say, okay, that is definitely worth it. I'm absolutely going to write out my goals. I'm going to work every day towards them and have fun doing it. That's a great way to go too. Now, option 3 for just, getting it done and doing what you should be doing is don't think about it. If you schedule time, for example, for study, you want to create a habit of study for IT or a habit of change control or whatever it is, don't think about it. Just do it. So if you've scheduled, for example, change control meetings in IT for every Tuesday at 5 o'clock, at let's say 3 o'clock, whatever it is, and you think, well, we really don't need change control this week. Well, just do it. People are expecting as a team to have it, and in your own personal life, you should set up time and the space for you to learn and study and grow, and don't think about it. It's like exercise for me. I go to the gym a few times a week. Truth be told, I don't like it. I wish I liked it. I have people telling me, don't you feel the endorphins and everything else? No, I don't. I just think it's hard work. I look better as a result, and I might live longer, and those are great reasons why I do it as far as health and so forth. But when I go to the gym, I don't think, do I want to go to the gym? Because the answer is going to be no, I don't want to go. I just have scheduled it. I'm going to go ahead and do it. Now, what if, and I need to speed this up a little bit, what if we know what we're supposed to do and we don't do it, which is very possible? What do we do about that? And let me share with you an inside secret regarding how you can solve that. In each of us, we have a little voice that's talking almost all the time. For some of you, you're saying, yep, I know that voice telling me what I can do or can't do, or, recommending things. And for those of you who said, I don't have a voice, that's the voice. It's always talking. It just can't shut up. And sometimes that voice will give you feedback or comments that are not helpful. For example, let's take software-defined networking. We've all heard that buzzword and that technology, or if you haven't, you're going to. Let's say that I wanted to learn software-defined networking, and there's lots of ways of going about it. But as I think about that, I have some negative self-talk. One of those is, you know what, that is just so much to learn. Where would I start? How much, that's just a whole nother, I'd have to learn more scripting, et cetera, et cetera. Those are the voices that are not helpful. If you have a goal and you want to accomplish it, that self-talk that you are giving yourself is absolutely not, I repeat, not your friend. It's not helpful. However, it is you. It's your subconscious and your brain creating those, virtualized voices. So here's what you could do. Give your voices a chance to be heard. And what I mean by that is, let's use the SDN example. And let's say just imagine for a moment, I don't want to learn SDN, and my little voice is saying, oh, Keith, that's going to be so hard. It's a whole new stuff you got to learn, and programming, blah, 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 blah. What we could do is give that voice an accent. Now, the accent I like is Scotty from Star Trek. Hi, Captain. I'm giving it all she can. And I don't do a great Scotty imitation, but that voice for me is humorous. You can take any voice that you want to that's humorous to you and go ahead and give your self-talk that voice. So what I could do is this. I could say, when I hear it, first of all, I'd be mindful. I hear the voice saying, oh, that's a lot of work. Where would you start? It's not, you're 52, Keith. How are you going to pick up SDN? See, you got a lot of stuff going on. By the way, that's all my real self-talk on SDN, by the way. Just FYI. So in next year, when I'm doing my SDN nuggets at CBT Nuggets, you'll know I overcame that. So here's how I do it. I take my Scotty voice out, and I'd say something like, oh, SDN. I can almost not do it without laughing. Oh, SDN, that's a lot of work. Oh, yeah, you're going to be hard-pressed to learn all that. Where are you going to start? You got to learn new technologies and maybe learn some scripting. Oh, and just make a freaking funny voice. And then hammer out all that self-talk that is not serving you. And once you can laugh at it, which I just did, by the way, my own self-talk, once you can laugh at it, it won't it won't impede your progress as much. Because if it comes up again, you can just give it the funny voice. We have self-defense mechanisms. Like we're looking over a large, we're at Niagara Falls, we're looking down. Our little voice says, hey, be careful. Don't get too close. That may be dangerous. That's pretty healthy. Those are healthy self-talk. But anytime you have self-talk that's encouraging you to not do something or make excuses, give it a humorous voice. So going back to our goals, if you want to become a Linux ninja, which is not a bad thing, especially if you're a pen tester or you're working with Linux systems, and Sean Powers has some amazing courses on Linux. Going back to our goals, set a schedule where you're going to learn and then stick to it. So maybe it's 10 minutes a day, and that will build a habit. So your conscious mind, initially, it's going to be a conscious habit. But after a period of time, that pattern of taking a little bit of time every day or pockets of time will become part of your subconscious routine, and your subconscious will love it, and it will drive you, and it will help you to keep those habits in place. And then as you start to see the results, it'll just be a feedback loop. Hey, I know this, I'm better at that, and you can just keep on learning, and that's the secret. It's not how much you know, it's how much are you willing to learn, because things are changing all the time. So I would also encourage you to create a space and a time that you can watch and learn and practice and conquer any technology or anything that you want to. It also helps if you're accountable. For example, I've got many people who publish up on my social media pages commitments, because I encourage them in many of my nuggets to publish a commitment like I commit to 10 minutes a day, or I commit to this many labs a week, or I commit to taking an exam by this date. Because having that little added bit of pressure publicly allows me, along with your friends and people who care about you, to go ahead and be your cheerleading squad. Like, yeah. Every time I see somebody post that, I think, this person has a commitment. They're making it publicly, and that's going to help motivate them, and your subconscious mind, by the way, to get it done. So here's an example of one I pulled off this morning off my Keith Barker Facebook page, Keith Barker Networking Facebook page. This person is committing, I fuzzed out the name, this person is committing to CompTIA Security Plus on January 2017. And then, I wish them the best, and if they've got great content they can learn with and practice with, and that's just one more, stake in the ground to help them get their goals. And the more people we can commit to, and the more people know our goals, our subconscious is going to help us with that little bit of added pressure as well. Here's some of my contact information if you'd like to post any commitments that you have regarding your goals, how you're going to succeed, or certain dates. Please feel free. I'm a cheerleader for everybody who posts their goals. For example, I want to get this certification, or I want to learn this technology by a certain date and certain time, and I can be reached at all these locations as well. So I had to rush a little teeny bit there, but let me go ahead and see if there's any questions in the queue that I have time for. So I'm looking, I see a lot of dialogue that's gone on, which is great, but I don't see any questions, and that's pretty cool because we're actually at the end of our 30-minute mark. So on behalf of CBT Nuggets, we are a huge proponent of the student. We are continual learners ourselves. We know that training is a 1-5-10 proposition. For every hour a person spends training, they're going to have 5 hours more productivity as a result of learning how to do that technology or that skill versus just mucking around. The problem with traditional training, though, is that traditional training is like 10 times more expensive than it should be. Like a typical class from name any big vendor for a 3 to 5 day class is going to be around $3,000, and that's after the discount. $3,000 for one person. So if you're not already familiar with our model at CBT Nuggets, we're more like a buffet. You go to a buffet in Vegas, what do you get to eat? Anything that's there. So we have thousands of videos, hundreds of topics, most of the major players out there, including Cisco and Juniper and Big IP F5 and VMware and Microsoft and et cetera, et cetera. And the cost is less than $100 a month, and it's a buffet. You can eat as much as you want, and for under $1,000, you can train for an entire year for that person, as opposed to $3,000 for a 1 5-day class. So anyway, thank you very much for attending. I'm going to turn back the time back over to Jack Walker. And on behalf of myself and all the other trainers at CBT Nuggets, we really appreciate being part of your life, and we hope to be able to continue to do so.